back to our Jerusalem Bureau. Those pictures that you see, Larry Register, our Bureau Chief in Jerusalem, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, Lou, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay.
And I am sitting here trying to watch this monitor through the glares of these studio lights. Could you describe to us what you can see?
Alec, Lou Dobbs is talking to me. Please stop talking to me. I'm trying to listen to Lou, Alec. Please stop talking to me. Go ahead, Lou.
Again, we can see the pictures. I am somewhat limited here because there's so much glare on my monitor. Could you please describe what we are seeing as you've turned your cameras toward the streets of Jerusalem?
Yes, he's looking down. The camera's looking down at the streets of Jerusalem. This is Jaffa Road that you're looking at, Jaffa Road. Our address here is 206 Jaffa Road. We are about 1 or 2 blocks from the main bus station. We're looking down at Jaffa Road. We've seen 2 or 3 cars go by. What I can tell you is this so far. There have been at least, I don't have confirmed reports of this personally, but this is what I'm hearing from my informed sources, at least 2 explosions in Tel Aviv. Palestinian sources are telling us there were 5 explosions between Qalqilia and Tel Aviv. The first one happened at 2:10 our time, which would have been at about 7:10 Eastern time, I believe. I hope I'm doing right with my mathematics here.
You're doing fine.
So that's what we hear. The first explosion happened at 2:10 our time in Tel Aviv, which would have been 7:10 Eastern time. So far in Jerusalem, I have heard 3 air raid sirens, and as I was getting out of bed to the sirens, I thought I detected a small explosion from far away. I did not feel the ground shake or anything like that, but I could hear it with my ears. I immediately put my clothes on, went down and got in my car to drive to the Bureau to meet up with my fellow CNN workers here. I have with me now Trey Haney. Andre Brown is taking these pictures. Izzy Lindbergh is helping us gather information. The pictures you're looking at, I'm going to look at the monitor here. As I said, our Jaffa Road, you do see, there goes a car going by. The people hear the sirens. They have been advised by the Civil Defense, or Haga here, to put your gas mask on, go into a sealed room until further notice. At this moment, we have our mask on, but we're not going to the sealed room. It's 1 floor below us. We can get there in probably 20 seconds or 30 seconds as need be. We have chemical suits. We have atropine. We can take care of ourselves. Here comes one of our colleagues into our building. The building we are in houses journalists. It's Jerusalem Capitol Studios, ABC, CBS, CNN. The Canadians are here, and the French, and the Europeans. Many European networks are here. It's not as busy as it is on a normal day. I guess many people took the advice of Haga, or the Civil Defense, and stayed home and stayed in the sealed room. But right now in Jerusalem, I have heard no explosions in Jerusalem. I did hear something go over our head, which we thought may have been a jet. I don't know. I could not see through these windows. I'm going to pull this. This is not a seal I'm taking off. This is just a filter for a live shot, which you can't see, so I can see better out these windows. Okay. Looking down, I see the lit live shot location downstairs. And again, the road, Jaffa Road, is very empty. If you look straight out across, if Andre can hear me, Andre, can you hear me? You can see the Knesset looking straight out across, a shot of the Knesset.
Larry?
It's where the Israeli parliament meets. Yes, Lou?
If I may interrupt your reporting for just a moment, we're going to turn now to Tel Aviv, also under a civil defense alert for missile attack. And there we're going to try to talk with the security chief at the Hilton Hotel in Tel Aviv. Are you there? Yes. Are you there? This is...
What's happening? You don't put a mask?
Yep. This is Lou Dobbs in New York. Can you hear me? Is this the Hilton Hotel? Excuse me, the Sheraton Hotel? Okay. As you might expect, we're going to be bouncing around on these communications. That we have them at all, to my mind, is a tremendous credit to our engineering and production staff around the world. We're going back to Larry Register in Jerusalem. Larry, are you still able to hear me?
Yes, well, I can still hear you fine.
There have been no further, what you would say were explosions in the past 20 minutes?
No, Lou. Not since I last talked to you. Nothing has changed. It's now. There's a phone call. Maybe I can get that. I might have some more information.
Okay, the pictures you're watching are of our being shot out of the windows of our Jerusalem bureau. It's CNN bureau, and we're going to stay with those with that video and audio contact. But first, we're going to return now to Wolf Blitzer at the Pentagon, who has a further update for us. Wolf?
Yes, Lou, we're getting word here at the Pentagon that at least 2 of those Iraqi Scud missiles, believed to be Iraqi Scud missiles, have landed south of Tel Aviv in populated suburban areas. One along the Mediterranean coast in a town south of Tel Aviv called Hulon, and we're told it's in an area where there's a well-known hospital in that suburban area called the Wolfson Hospital south of Tel Aviv. No knowledge of any damage, no word yet whether it had a chemical warhead or a conventional warhead. The second missile is reported to have landed southeast of Tel Aviv in a area called Kiryat Shalem. And again, these are populated areas, suburban areas where commuters who live in the suburbs and work in Tel Aviv go. And certainly the indications from these 2 loud explosions that were heard throughout Tel Aviv but not in Jerusalem would indicate that these 2 missiles, Scud missiles, believed to have been Iraqi Scud missiles, landed in these areas near Tel Aviv. Indeed, Saddam Hussein has been promising for weeks that if there was a war, his first targets would be Israel, and these reports indicate that he has lived up to that threat. The question now is, what are the Israelis going to do? Yes, Lou?
Wolf, we're going to try to find that out. I just want to explain for our viewers who are watching pictures from our Jerusalem bureau, listening to Wolf Blitzer at the Pentagon talk about what is happening in Tel Aviv. We have heard reports of as many as 5 missiles fired. We have confirmed now, as I understand it, Wolf, 2 of those missiles have landed south of Tel Aviv. Our correspondent in Tel Aviv, Richard Roth, is on the telephone. Richard, can you tell us, do you have any knowledge of injuries in those missile attacks?
I'm not going to be able to provide much information except what people are going through here. Right now I'm in the Hilton Hotel in a sealed room on the 6th floor with dozens of other hotel guests and journalists. We have heard several, at least I would say 10, 11 explosions. It's unclear what kind or where they might be coming from that are reverberating throughout the city. Sometime around 2:15 in the morning local time, the air raid siren went off, and this city, which had been bracing for weeks for potential trouble, raced into sealed rooms, donned gas masks. I'm sitting next to dozens of people who are wearing their black gas masks. People have been told to stay put, no smoking, and we are just listening to explosions. The rooms are sealed up. We are not able to look outside. We just keep hearing very loud explosions and booms going off. The city yesterday was deserted as everyone was inside their homes, and it appeared that some people thought that maybe the worst was over and that Saddam Hussein would not be able to fulfill his threat. Apparently that might have been wishful thinking. Lou?
Richard, thank you. We have just been informed that guests at the International Hotel in Duran have been informed to take several Saudi Arabia to move to the bomb shelter, and we're not exactly certain of what those initial warnings mean, but we're going to turn again to Wolf Blitzer, and Wolf, hopefully you can add to this story that is breaking very quickly.
Well, clearly, Lou, missiles have landed in Israel, Scud missiles. The presumption here at the Pentagon is that these missiles were from the mobile surface-to-surface missiles, the Scud missiles that the Iraqis had claimed would go after targets in Israel as well as in eastern Saudi Arabia. And if this alert that has now been reported in Dhahran in eastern Saudi Arabia is true, there could be a missile alert at least going after some of the targets in the eastern part of Saudi Arabia. Throughout the day, officials here at the Pentagon had been telling journalists that, yes, the fixed sites were believed to have been knocked out. The fixed Scud ballistic missile sites, especially those in the western part of Iraq, dubbed by the U.S. intelligence community as H2 and H3, those were believed to have been destroyed in the initial U.S. airstrikes. But there was concern, indeed mounting concern throughout the day here at the Pentagon, that the Iraqis in the past 24 or 48 hours had managed to conceal some of the mobile missiles, and these are the ones that presumably have landed in Israel. We have confirmed here at CNN that 2 of those missiles have landed south of Tel Aviv in suburban areas, one in a suburban town along the Mediterranean called Hulon, another one southeast of Tel Aviv called Kiryat Shalem. No word on the extent of injuries, no word whether this was a chemical warhead or a conventional warhead. Details are still sketchy, but what is clearly obvious here at the Pentagon at this hour is that U.S. officials are bracing for some sort of Israeli response. Lou?
Well, thank you. We're going to turn quickly to Larry Register in Jerusalem. Larry?
Okay, Lou, what I have right now is Nachman Shai, Brigadier General Nachman Shai, who's the chief spokesman for the Israeli Defense Forces, said on Israel radio that 2 missiles have landed in Tel Aviv. I have another source on the phone with me now who says military sources are confirming that 5 missiles, I repeat, 5 missiles have fallen in the Tel Aviv area. They believe they were chemical warheads. He doesn't know how. I don't know how he knows that. This is what military sources are telling him. Do you have any other information you can pass on to me?
Larry, all I can pass on to you is what Wolf Blitzer at the Pentagon, who I assume you've just heard, he, like you, has just confirmed 2 missiles landing south of Tel Aviv. Richard Roth, our correspondent, who is now in a shelter in Tel Aviv, saying that there are far more than 2 explosions. In addition, we have been told that...
Lou,
yes.
Excuse me, Lou.
Yes.
Palestinians in Kalkilia and Kfar Saba have reported between 2 to 5 missiles. These are Palestinian sources who are saying they heard 5 explosions. Is that correct, Yoni?
Larry Register is talking with his staff, looking for confirmation of that. Okay. Larry, again, we have that confirmation of the 2 missiles from the Pentagon.
Starting at 2:10, they heard the explosions very clearly. Okay. Any other information you have? That's it. Okay. Call me back when you can.
Larry Register talking to one of his sources in Jerusalem. Larry, thank you. We are, I'm going to recap, if I may quickly, confirm 2 Scud missiles have landed in Tel Aviv. There is no report of injuries. The extent of damage, no information as to whether it is a chemical or conventional warhead on either of the 2 confirmed missile strikes against Tel Aviv. We again have been told that the guests at the hotel in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, at the International Hotel, are to report to their bomb shelters. We cannot at this point tell you precisely what that means. But to bring us up to date throughout the rest of the evening here on CNN, David French in Washington. David.
Where is the Tel Aviv Hilton number?
Lou, we're still looking at the sites there in Jerusalem. This is David French in Washington. I'm sitting with James Blackwell of the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. It's very important for us now to get Larry Register back on the phone with us because Mr. Blackwell has some advice. Is Larry Register, can you hear me in Jerusalem?
2222.
Yes, they're making some phone calls.
972-352.
We have this report in the Israeli ministry is in a state of war alert now. Repeating, the Israeli ministry is in a state of war alert. Israeli radio is broadcasting no information about the raid beyond ordering its citizens to put on their gas masks. CNN is the only outside source of information in Israel at the present time, we are told. Another attack incoming now. CNN source in the Israeli Defense Ministry is telling CNN that there is another attack incoming now. This is what I have to say important to our people in Jerusalem who may be able to hear us. And I'd like to put on James Blackwell briefly to do that. This is important.
David, I've been out of the Army for a while, but let me be a major once again. It's extremely important that all the people there do exactly as the Israeli government has instructed them to do. They must put their masks on now. I'm looking at this monitor. I see windows open. They must be closed. The people must put their gas masks on. If these missiles have nerve agents, by the time they realize that they are being gassed, it's too late. The nerve agents work in a matter of seconds, and it's extremely important, as I've observed all the networks here this evening in this 1 hour of this gas attack, that they follow instructions to the letter.
Right, we're going now to the Pentagon and Wolf Blitzer. Thank you very much, Mr. Blackwell. Wolf, come in from the Pentagon. We're seeing pictures from Jerusalem.
Yes, David. Just seconds ago, Pete Williams, the Pentagon spokesman, came into this room and told journalists that the U.S. has confirmed that Scud missiles have landed in Israel. He didn't have a precise number, but CNN has now learned that 8 Scud missiles, 8 ballistic missiles, have landed in Israel, 2 in the Tel Aviv area, 1 in Haifa, the major port of Israel on the Mediterranean, 3 in unpopulated, largely unpopulated areas of Israel, and the final 8th missile in an unknown area of Israel. But they have detected 8 ballistic missiles from Iraq. This has now been confirmed, and obviously this rewrites all of the equation as far as this war is concerned. Pentagon officials are clearly bracing, as I reported earlier, for some sort of Israeli response, and that probably could take place at any second if it hasn't already. David?
Wolf, was there any further confirmation of your earlier report that one of the missiles landed near Hulon, a suburban area where there's a large hospital?
Yes, the 2 that landed in the Tel Aviv area, south of Tel Aviv, landed, one in Hulon along the Mediterranean, and one elsewhere, Kiryat Shalem, near Tel Aviv, both suburban areas, part of the greater Tel Aviv area. And let's just recap. 1 is known to have landed in the Haifa area, 3 in unpopulated, largely unpopulated parts of Israel, and the 8th in an unknown area, although it was detected by intelligence. Clearly, as I said, this is something that will cause the Israelis almost certainly to respond. The U.S. had asked Israel in the days leading up to the war that if there were an Iraqi missile attack, not to respond, to let the United States continue to take action, not bring Israel into this war. The U.S. has been concerned that an Israeli involvement could upset some of the Arab coalition partners. But the Israelis, I am told authoritatively, told the United States, including the Deputy Secretary of State who was in Israel last week, Lawrence Eagleberger, that if the Iraqis launched an initial strike, a first strike at the Israelis would absorb it, but then they would retaliate in their own national interest, and that's what everyone is certainly bracing for now. No word again, David, on the extent of casualties in Israel. We'll have to await some on-the-scene reports from our correspondents there if they can get out of their hotels or their offices.
All right, needless to say, Wolf Blitzer, this is very serious business, as we just heard from James Blackwell of CSIS. Anyone who is threatened by an incoming missile with a possible poison gas warhead has no time, virtually no time to react. So be in gas masks, take all precautions, follow what the officials are saying. You don't have time to be brave and later react. If you're told to seal your windows, seal your windows. If you're told to get in protective gear, get in it and stay in it. We have a fresh report from Dhahran, where we reported earlier that the international hotel there had been, the people inside had been told to go to the bomb shelters. They have now been asked to allowed to return from the bomb shelters. The international hotel in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, now assuming a safer status. Now back here in the studio with James Blackwell for... All right, we have on the telephone spokesman Nathan Diamond. I believe he's with IDF, and he is a spokesman for IDF, the Israeli Defensive Force. Please come in, sir. Nathan Diamond with the IDF, can you hear me? The IDF? Mr. Diamond? I'm calling Nathan Diamond of the Israeli Defense Force. Well, we don't have Nathan Diamond up on that line, but Larry Register in our Jerusalem Bureau is there in his gas masks. Larry, what's the latest?
Yeah, well, we're looking now at Israel Television, which has a slide up. We're showing you a picture of Israel Television, which has a slide up. We're still trying to gather information here. What we have so far is that Nachman Shai, Brigadier General Nachman Shai, who is the chief spokesman for the IDF, said on Israel radio that 2 missiles have landed. Palestinian sources have said they heard 5 missiles land. I repeat, 5 missiles land.
Our report from the Pentagon has the number perhaps up as high as 8, Larry. Izzy Lindbergh, our camera person, is there with you. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about all of the people there and whether they're safe right now or not?
I'm sorry, I could not hear the question. Please repeat.
Larry, just give me an idea of who is there with you and that they're okay now.
Okay, I'll give, yes, we're all okay. And we've heard from our correspondent in Tel Aviv, Richard Roth. He's okay. Let me do a quick pan. Our cameraman is Andre Brown. He is okay. Trey Haney is the sound man. He's okay. Correspondent Linda Scherzer.
Hi,
She's
Linda.
fine. Linda, Lou says hi.
Are your windows...
Izzy Lindbergh, he's okay over there. Let me talk to Linda. If you could, we'll talk to Linda. Linda, how did you arrive to the Bureau?
I was called by someone to tell me that I should not leave my field room, that I should not go down to the bomb shelter, but that I should immediately put on my gas mask and get into the room. Shortly after that, I heard a police car come by with a loudspeaker advising the same thing and advising us to listen to the radio. I did just that, and then made a decision to come into the office. Overhead, I've been hearing lots of airplanes flying above, and beyond that, I'm here, and we're all here with our gas masks, and we're fine for the moment, and we hope to stay that way.
Linda, how did you arrive at the Bureau? How did you get to the Bureau?
Our CNN driver came and
The CNN driver came and got you. What did you see on the streets? You came in about 15 minutes after I did. What did you see on the streets of Jerusalem?
The streets were deserted. Whatever cars were on the road were racing to get to their homes and to their field rooms.
Okay. Okay, that's the situation we can give you right now, a little update from the streets. Let me show you again what Israel Television is showing. They have a slide up. They had their countdown on a second ago. I thought that indicated they might have a special program, but at the moment they have a slide up. I'm trying to see if I can hear any audio. They're playing music. Very slow, somber music. So this is what Israel Television is showing for anyone who might have their television in their sealed room. This is what they would be seeing at this moment in the houses around Israel. That's the situation I can tell you right now here in Jerusalem. We'll update you as we hear more. Do you have any questions for me?
Larry Register, Linda Scherzer, and the group, thank you very much. We'll be right back to you in Jerusalem. I understand there have been many hits there. I want you all to continue to take those precautions. We're going to Tel Aviv on the telephone with Richard Roth. He was on with us earlier reporting that there had been some explosions in that area. What's the latest, Richard Roth, in Tel Aviv?
The latest is we're all sitting here in gas masks. It's a little tough to breathe here. I've just removed it slightly so you can hear me. The glass is fogging up on me here. We've heard several explosions. No way of knowing how far away they are. A few hours ago, I was just reading an article about how a war might go after it had already started. It was calm here in Tel Aviv. I looked out, the waves were lapping on the beach, and I was laying down on bed, and you hear the sound of the siren, and you think that it must be a car, there have been these frequent false alarms, and
Bob, basically a comment that suggests that once again officials are glued to their television sets to find out what's happening. I was in Marlon Fitzwater's office when all this came about. He had no information. We have not gotten any as yet, but I can see a lot of activity in Scowcroft.
Hello?
We do have reports now of perhaps nerve gas in Tel Aviv, and we're going to the White House at this moment, and Charles Bierbauer. Charles.
David, once again, U.S. officials are glued to their television sets to try and find out just what is going on in the Middle East. In fact, I was in Marlon Fitzwater's office when the first word of this attack surfaced. Mr. Fitzwater has not come out and given us any real detailed information at this point. They're trying to ascertain just what is going on, doing so, as I say, mostly by watching television. There is a lot of activity that I can see through the curtain windows of National Security Advisor Brent Scowcroft's office. The whole question is, what do the Israelis do next? As we've been discussing on the air here, the question of an Israeli retaliation. One of the fears that the Bush administration had, and one of the reasons why it approached the Israelis about not retaliating and certainly not making a preemptive strike, was what that would do to the Arab members of the coalition gathered against Iraq, concerned that the Arabs might back out. Recalling a couple of interviews that were done just prior to the start of this war, Egyptian President Mubarak made the point of saying that the Israelis certainly have a right to defend themselves. The Turkish President Özal said very much the same sort of thing. So there is some consolation, some sense that the coalition will hold together. One of the key terms that we have heard associated with this is proportionate response. If the Israelis do respond in a proportionate fashion, that the Arabs who are parts of this coalition would understand and would not back out as a result. David?
That's the way to put...
Right, Charles, thank you very much. Once again, officials watching television. We're going back now to Jerusalem. I don't want to mislead that there have been missiles sighted in the area of Jerusalem. So far as we know, there have been explosions around the area of Tel Aviv, but not Jerusalem. Is that what you understand, Larry? Now they're learning how to breathe through their gas masks now, putting them on.
the door. Where's Tal? Stop ventilation, air conditioning in a home. Stay tuned to the radio and the television.
It's possible that Israeli television is instructing
Stay tuned to the
people how to wear those
IDF
masks.
outside Remco.
ואנחנו מקווים שבמשך הזמן הקרוב ביותר. זאת הייתה הודעת צה"ל.
That was the IDF spokesman.
That's what it is. They're instructing people how to wear those
They are
gas
in the
masks.
studio. They are very clear in the studio. They're safe in the studio.
פאניקה הייתה התקפת טילים על מרכז הארץ. אנחנו נדווח לכם ככל שתגיע אלינו האינפורמציה המדויקת, ובינתיים נשמיע שירים, יישארו צמודים אלינו, שידורים שלנו.
At the meantime, songs. At the meantime, they're going to have songs for us.
They're going to play songs.
Yeah.
They're going to play songs on Israel television. They gave an instruction on how to wear your gas mask. They told everybody not to panic. Now they're going to play songs for the civilian population, military population. They're playing piano music, trying to calm the nerves of the people. I know I can use some calming for my nerves.
All right, we're going to talk now by telephone to a resident of Holon, a suburb of Tel Aviv. We have on the line Eliza Prisoner. Ms. Prisoner, please tell us what you have to say.
You ask me? We sit here in the room. It's a closed room. And we hear my husband and two daughters. Okay?
Your husband and two daughters are in your room in Holon in a closed room. By closed room, are the doors and windows taped?
Yes, it's closed with masking tape.
How old are your children?
14, girls 14, and the other is 15 and a half.
How much fear is there in the room with you?
What?
How afraid are you?
Again, please?
How afraid are you tonight in that room?
I don't understand.
What do you mean?
Please repeat.
What's on what?
Hello?
Miss Prisoner, we have to leave right now to go to Richard Roth. We have some important details that he has for us. Richard Roth, come in, please.
Yeah, hello, Israeli radio.
Richard Roth is about to tell us what he's been gleaning from Israeli radio. Let me try one more time. Do we have Richard Roth? Okay, let's discuss what we've just been through here with Mr. Blackwell from the Center for Strategic and International Studies here with me in Washington. It does appear serious.
David, first, this is a very vivid depiction of the fog of war. Facts are incomplete. People don't respond necessarily the way they should. They make assumptions. It's extremely important to follow your training and react to the situation the way that you're trained. Now, the facts are that at least 2, perhaps more, missiles have landed in Israel, and at least one media source is saying that at least some of those missiles had nerve gas. That's sufficient to take all proper precautions. It's sufficient evidence to take all proper precautions as well as the instructions of the Israeli government. Now, these chemical agents work in ways that are probably not very familiar to people. This isn't medicine. These nerve agents work very, very quickly, within seconds. They spread fairly rapidly, and even if your room is sealed with tape, it's possible that some portions of it can seep in. That's why it's extremely important that
we have this in from, I believe, the Pentagon on the missiles. There were 8, according to the Pentagon and intelligence sources. 3 landed in... 1 landed in Haifa. 2 landed in Tel Aviv. So we have confirmations of 2 cities being hit by missiles, Haifa with 1, Tel Aviv with 2, and 3 of those missiles landing in unpopulated areas.
David, this is a very small attack in terms of numbers of missiles. Certainly the danger is very great, but it's a very small attack in terms of the quantity of ordnance that is landing in Israel.
This is going to be difficult for you to explain, but if there... We're going now to the Israeli Defense Force, and I believe Ari Cohen, who has a statement.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead with the statement from the Israeli Defense Force.
We're just releasing this statement. All the citizens of Israel are allowed to take their masks off, but are asked to remain in the sealed rooms. If there will be another sound of alarm, everybody must wear the masks again. This is the announcement.
Would you repeat it for me slowly, Mr. Cohen?
Okay.
Go ahead,
The citizens of Israel are allowed to take their masks off and are asked to remain
go. I say go away. You bother me.